2, 1.
He thinks I didn't start before he started the countdown.
Are you ready to go, Harry?
Tyler, we're literally recording.
Are you ready to start the video?
What do you fucking think? You gormless ape.
Welcome, everyone. I'll assume he started it just as I said that.
No, we go for 25 seconds.
To the part 3 of the primary tier list, where we decide that your favorite gun is ass. And that you're
that's
terrible
going to be
for
more
liking
true
it.
than ever. Actually, no, it's probably not. It's definitely not. I'll tell you why not. Because the M1000, we're not. I don't think we're wrong, but we are. I know that's easily the probably. It would probably be considered the worst take if this got like a lot more traction.
The issue is that the M1000. Because what I realised, Harry, and this is something important. While we do play on Has 5, we don't try that hard.
Also, I apologise for anyone who's crying right now because of the music. It's fucking Halo 3 menu. It's fucking Halo 3 menu theme, and I'm actually fucking on the brink of fuck. Alright, carry on.
Yeah, I'll try out some new music. Yeah, we don't try that hard, and I realize this because I see people playing, and I recently reminded because during the Name All video it came out recently talking about bunkers, and I realized that how little we try. We don't often shape the terrain in our favor. We don't often bother to do anything like that. You know what I mean? we don't really focus our builds and play to them, which is because I've been watching some other videos, Scout's thing, right? The M1000, if you're playing Scout in that you take out high priority targets, is the best thing for it. Except that we don't really do that. We just play the Scout like we would anyone else.
No, I don't.
Which is probably why.
Don't speak for me. I play Scout properly. I do both.
Then you should probably play the M1000 more.
No,
because
it's not the best option for that. It's not. It simply ain't.
All right.
I'd rather use shield battery booster, because that's actually good. I'm not even kidding. I've been playing with the Drac recently a lot. Not that that's not normal for me, because it is normal. But I've been playing with it even more, as in more experimentally, using stuff I don't normally use. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that. But have you been doing what that? I think was it Matashura that informed us that thing actually can increase your shield uptime.
I didn't feel no, I didn't. I did something else though. I found out. I didn't find out something. I found something that I didn't think I would like, but I do. We'll talk about that soon.
Yeah. Probably a good thing the Drax left for last, because I think that'll be a sparked debate.
I think there'll be I think we'll see. Smart rifle though might not be too cumbersome. I'm not sure.
That was a smooth transition.
I want to say immediately, I feel like I've been a bit too harsh on this weapon.
Perhaps I've been too harsh on you.
What's that?
That's Thanos too.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
Thank you. I did my best.
The universe needs to be the universe needs to be balanced. That's
a lot. No, that sounds like Thanos is having a stroke, due to the effects of the gauntlet. It's just lost all feeling in his left side. The strongest will. Yeah. But yeah. Right. We already put it somewhere. Okay. No, you just put it there for now, right? Because you want it to be on the screen. Right. What
do you mean?
I suppose we should start with range again.
Range on the smart rifle. Actually, that's interesting. This is probably the most difficult one to place in terms of range, actually, or one of the more difficult ones, because I think it's actually it's quite flexible based on mod choice.
It has an entire line of mods that just fuck around with its range.
Yeah,
right?
I wouldn't call it. I would probably cross close range off. Even though it can be used at close range, it's not a close range weapon. Even if you take the wide angle stuff where you can hold locks like when things like behind you, basically. I still wouldn't consider it close range. I think it's averages out to mid range probably, but you can make it like purely long range if you want with like the really small lens, but it's still limited. That's the thing. It still has an objectively limited range with the lock on part of it. The lock on always has a limited range technically.
Except that if you don't lock on, do you then basically have infinite range?
Yes.
Like, so I don't think that's worth mentioning or like putting in the, technically it could be really long range because you could just not lock on, because that's clearly not really the purpose of it. But like, that is something, right? Like, if you want to use it for getting rid of fucking gunk seeds, you can if you want.
It's fine for that. I like a lot of things about the smart rifle. Sort of like, what's the right word? I guess maybe aesthetically is the right word. As in, I like the sound. I actually really like the sound of the bullets for some reason, and like the reload animation and things like that.
I think,
and I like the way
sound
the
of
crosshairs.
the bullets.
The crosshairs change a lot as well. This is a weird thing it has that no other weapon really has. You can change what the crosshairs look like in a lot of ways because the lock-on crosshairs, they change quite rapidly, or a lot of variety there. The only other example is like the grenade launcher where hyper propellant has a different crosshair. But smart rifle, you see the effects of your upgrades in your UI. And I think that's kind of neat.
The sound of the gunshots that the gun makes when it guns is one of my issues with it. Not because that sound effect is bad, but because it's so good that you have a sound so satisfying, then do a shot that does so little.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's not a small amount of damage per shot, though. That's the thing. It's like 21 like base. That's not nothing. That's something. It's not small amount. Those are fairly heavy hitting like single bullets. It's higher than pretty much anything else. I think the Burt can like actually have more than that per bullet. That's the thing. Kind of weird. Actually, no. Obviously it can with lead spray, but that's pretty weird. But yeah, the smart rifle. Okay, so I had sort of decided not too long ago that it was essentially just a failure of a weapon. And I don't know how far I've come from that. I've come some distance. I came some distance. Yeah. But I think it's a bit of a disappointment in terms of just the mod selection is a bit overbearingly useless. I think that it's not even that many of the mods are too complicated. I just wish most of these were different. It's lacking a lot of basic stuff in exchange for stuff that doesn't make as much of an impact as it should, or is just kind of a bit too finicky. Like, I wish there was like just armor breaking, for example, on its like as a base upgrade, instead of taking the slot of an overclock, which I think is objectively filler. Whereas that overclock should be like either the turret one they were prototyping or some kind of hipfire overclock. Which mind you, there's no mods that spec into that either, and I think that's a bit of a misstep.
I think you do also, obviously they wanted it to be the case, but you do have to make note of the fact that it is it's the only primary that doesn't interact with the turret. So it does kind of lack that area of engineer's playstyle, which I don't think is any area that anyone could particularly like relish as like they would say that they're like a turret interactor main, right? That's how they play engineer. But
no, I think that should have been a staple of engineer's primaries, and it was going to be. Yeah, but I don't think it's quite good enough that they just didn't get it working. But at the same time, I don't think they've scrapped that at all. I think we'll probably get that overclock at some point. It's just we haven't got new overclocks yet, and it wasn't ready for launch of the smart rifle. So I think we'll get that, and we'll probably get hipfire one too. It's just the fact that exists and they do nothing with it. You know, I almost feel like you shouldn't be able to do that if you can't do anything with it. You know, and it would be pretty simple as well. You have Executioner, which is like its execution is very strong, but it's so specific. It's like increased weak point damage at full lock, basically. So that's, you have to use the lock on, you have to be at full locks, and it's weak point. If it just gave like a strong weak point bonus, you could even have it like vary, where it's like stronger when you use the lock on. But if it just had like a base weak point multiplier that would have been affected, that would have it on the hip fire shots as well. Like even something like that, but you don't even have that really. It's just like, come on, man. Shut up, Mitchell.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think that it's hard because there's so many like parts to weapons in this game, right? Obviously, literally mods, overclocks. There's a lot of options there, but also like as far as like itself goes, it has good builds. You know, a lot of bad ones.
It has some very strong builds. Yeah.
Explosive reload. Not explosive reload. For whatever the explosive one is, where you get explosive chemical rounds. I like quite a bit. I think it's quite good.
I think it's strong. I think for me, and I think there's an element of objectivity in this, but I'm not going to treat it that way. I'm going to say for me, that overclock feels terrible if I'm not using the shard diffractor, because then my overall amount of just weapon uses is too low for me. I just don't have an expansive enough ammo pool, you know, because it reduces your ammo and forces you to use a certain amount of ammo to get explosions. And it's like, if you're not using the shard diffractor as well, your secondary is probably geared towards like AoE anyway, unless you're using hyper propellant, in which case you really don't have a lot of ammo. Between the two, you have like very little.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, like Scout, obviously I think he loses ammo more, but like Engineer has a tendency of just having no ammo, like literally, like he just has so little ammo, like going into the mission. Like he has a real tendency of that, and I think the Loki is like that, like the Warthog in that.
I think the Loki does actually have
often.
I think the Loki has on average the worst ammo economy out of the three, to be honest. I think compared to the damage, it definitely does. Like, you kind of, even if you're not using Executioner, you really actually need to hit weak points to get like fair use out of it, in my opinion. Otherwise it's just not quite strong enough if you don't, which is kind of annoying. And but the thing is, it's a smart rifle. It's meant to like lock onto multiple enemies at once, take multiple enemies out at once. Yet it's not, in my opinion, built from an ammo or strength standpoint to actually deal with groups of enemies. Yeah, in concept, it is. I don't think they struck the right balance.
It throws like as many bullets as it can at a group of enemies, killing like some of them, but leaving most like half health. Like, it just feels like you have to chuck an unnecessary amount of ammo at enemies, like in a swarm with it. It just, I don't know. Yeah, it's just not that pleasant to use most of the time as well.
No, it's also actually it's not going to be too different from what some of the things I'm going to say about the Hurricane, but there'll be some major differences. I just think when you look at the overclocks as well, I think when you look across the overclocks and mods, it's just sort of the basic stuff that it's missing. I just wish it had, like, tier 1 is obviously you have, you know, ammo or damage, but it's just like it's kind of enough of either one, but it's almost too limited. I think I would take more ammo over a lot of other mods on the smart rifle that it offers. And, you know, like for something like penetration, it's like very weirdly placed because it doesn't actually work. Like, it's almost impressive. It's almost impressive that they made it normal. Like, they made penetration work normally on a smart rifle, where it just goes through on whatever path it happens to be on, but it doesn't actually interact meaningfully with the smart rifle's mechanics. I guess you could say that the penetration mod is like for hipfire, but I don't know, man.
I just don't think, well, because hipfire isn't viable. You definitely won't be doing enough damage with it, right?
No, and that's
like,
why I think the smart rifle genuinely deserves a hipster.
Yeah,
where you can actually fire it faster with hipfire and you have more ammo. I think that would be absolutely fine in the context of the smart rifle.
But yeah, I don't know. It is just, Yeah, I don't like the smart gun like out the gate because it's just like it has like two firing modes and like the M1000, right? It has two firing modes, the charge shot and the not charge shot, and it has ample builds for both. But the smart rifle is not that. You have the normal shots and the lock-on shots, but like that is not how they see it, right? They just see the smart rifle as the lock-on thing. I just don't think they wanted you to always be locking onto everything, so they made it an alternate fire mode, right? It isn't the fact that they want the hip fire to be its own thing. It was just the fact that they kind of had to do that so the lock-on system wouldn't be too annoying. I think that's what it is. And I feel like I don't know. It just makes it. The Loki just feels not as polished as most of the other guns in the game.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, just
I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because it actually. Well, I'm not going to get into that. Actually, I'm not going to get.
All right. I assume it's because it was the one that like they didn't have a beta test for.
Yes.
Unlike like most of the other ones.
Yes.
So it was clearly a newer idea.
Yes.
Like almost confirmed.
And that's why
it
makes me angry.
Yeah, it's
even though I've come around to normal smart rifle a little bit, right? Not much. Because I've come more around to normal smart rifle, but I've actually sort of like I've viewed the more specific like I don't know mega builds in actually a bit of a lesser light. Like Executioner, it's like it is really good. It would be amazing if you could like if you never didn't hit weak points, but it's arguably not rewarding enough, even though you can get pretty impressive damage out of it. It's like you really also need to have things like you need to, what is it? I can't remember what the actual upgrade's called. You kind of need to use electrochemical rounds and have things set on fire as well to really get the most out of that. And it's weird. Also, here is all the stuff. If you want to look at anything, let's have a. Who's this?
Oh yeah, it's got no lasso. Undeniably one of the worst thought out overclocks in the game. It really does feel like it though, doesn't it? The Loki just screams last minute.
Yeah, I'll tell you, screams last minute, right? You know how I said armor break module is a filler overclock because it could have been like it was probably the turret overclock before. Look at this description. That's actually okay. To be fair, in game that is like obviously this gives different descriptions. This gives more technical descriptions, but that is pretty much exactly what it says in game. It's literally just bullets have like armor breaking at full lock.
Yeah.
That's the in-game description. This is filler.
Yeah.
Even though it's not bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it needed a few more minutes in the oven. They could have like elaborated a bit more on some things, refined the mods and overclocks a bit more.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's arguably too unrefined to be placed in a higher tier than the Stubby, I think.
No, I do think it's down there, which it's a bad look for Engineer. And the thing is, though, is I entirely agree with it, and that's why I don't play Engineer. Because other than the Warthog, the other two weapons are just not that nice to use. And the Warthog can get tiring over time because it's just the Warthog, only the Warthog. The Warthog's only ever the Warthog.
Well, they should be good and they should be fun to use, but their strength level is sort of dictated by the existence of the turrets, really. And I mean that specifically also dictates some. When you say like Engineer has little ammo, well, that's sort of the turrets are there to substantiate that. They are his third weapon. Although I've sort of come around on the idea of Driller has that as well, but he doesn't really have that problem with his weapons. As in, he's got the drills as a very, very valid third, like, tertiary weapon. It's like
Driller doesn't have that much ammo in his pool because his ammo does more than everyone else's. That's kind of the point.
The primaries, on average, have good amounts of ammo. The Sergeant Pump obviously has less in terms of numbers, but it has efficiency.
Exactly. It's like a shot of his primaries will do like a lot or can do a lot. Unlike engineers who you'd get as much as you get really, other than like turret arc stubby. Like that's basically it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think the Loki Smart Rifle was. I think it was the most disappointing of the new gens of guns. I think for both of us, right?
Yeah, that's actually, and that's I want to see that. I want to put that as more of a compliment, maybe. It depends. As in, I don't think any of the other Gen 3 guns are going to be in C tier. So that says something, I think, and it also says something about it being, probably a more last minute thing. I think there is easily something to say about that, because you consider the fact that it wasn't prototyped. There was something else in its place in sort of the prototyping phase, so it came up and sort of replaced a pre-existing idea. And the fact that you have obviously filler overclocks like armor break module, there is something to say there, and I think that they can fix it like over time, but they haven't yet.
Yeah, because they haven't got around to having time to, because they're too busy adding new things instead of refining what's here. I'm not getting into that.
The Smart Rifle was pretty well received though.
Yeah, because wrong. Well, it adds a cool new mechanic, which I feel like they have used just without us knowing. Like, I think the Boomerang probably uses the smart lock-on mechanic, something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe. Yeah. I have no idea.
No, probably doesn't.
Yeah, it probably uses like wherever the turrets one is. Just enemy to enemy. Yeah, now Hurricane. Oh, cool. Alright, moving on.
No, wait, no, not necessarily. But maybe actually. No, hold on, Tyler. It's not. There's a good chance it can stay in B, but we still have to talk about it. So
obviously, but
the Hurricane.
Its range. Yes.
Range.
Start with that again.
Range.
Yeah. Legally obliged at this point. Its range is
everything. It's all range. It's all range.
Yeah.
Even close range, it can still be quite good, especially because, depending on the close range situation, that's possibly more. It has no friendly fire damage either. For you,
because,
you don't take damage from the explosions, and you can have stun on it too, so you can use it at close range.
It's like because as you kind of established with the other ones, Gunner's primary weapons are useful at all ranges, but like the Thunderhead leans towards close and the minigun leans towards further away. The Hurricane, being the Hurricane, is the middle ground between them, which means it is good at everything always. Like,
I think, in my opinion, the biggest criticism that I have of the Hurricane, I don't call this necessarily a failure, but I think it's sort of, it didn't necessarily, it might not be how they intended it, but I think the guiding of the rockets is actually, is like compensation, basically. It's compensation for the fact that it has like, it's like full fire rate and has perfect accuracy. That's what it has over the minigun and the Thunderhead, but that's compensated by travel time and sort of the way that you can actually fuck up because of the guided rockets. The fact that it has technically perfect, the fact that it actually technically has like more than 100% accuracy because of the way it works. That you can move rockets away and then move them back onto a target. It has like over 100% accuracy, but the fact that they have the travel time and that the things that can happen because of them being like stuck to your cursor, that's in my opinion actually meant to hold it back from being like too strong. Actually,
I think it's
obviously if it was hit scan, it probably would be too strong. Right, because of the way it's just
it's just so obviously like the middle ground between the Thunderhead and minigun. Like they were like, okay, direct damage and accuracy of the minigun with the AOE and like constant fire rate or steady fire rate of the Thunderhead, and they came up with the Hurricane.
Even though it's definitely not meant to be a middle ground, or if there is, it was meant to be the Thunderhead, because the Hurricane has more area damage and radius than the Thunderhead, pretty much always. I actually think it's impossible to make the Thunderhead have more, except when you take jet fuel homebrew or plasma burst missiles. But yeah, the Hurricane, it's meant to be. It's not a rocket launcher in a sense. It's like a rocket system. I don't know. It's like it's more like a rocket turret that you hold. You know, you can imagine like a rocket salvo, anti-air rocket turret that fires a lot of missiles. It's more like one of those that you hold. It's like a mini rocket LMG, you know, but it doesn't quite feel like that.
And it's like, I think saying in you saying that, you know, it's actually like the other side of the Thunderhead. Ammo also implies that as well. Minigun, tons and tons of ammo. Thunderhead's fuck tons of ammo. Hurricane, an amount, but not a lot.
It's still,
if you know what I mean.
It's still a decent pool, but in my opinion, it has the least. By default, it has the least efficient ammo pool because it meets like really weird and like annoying breakpoints. Whereas like it's really difficult to make it two-shot a grunt with direct damage, but you get like really close. It's just really annoying, and it's like this. It's like this breakpoints. It feels like it should hit, and if it did, then it would be fantastic by default, but it's not. And that's the thing. In my opinion, it's the worst of the three in its default state, basically, both in its default state and then alongside with its like clean overclocks, right? But. But the Hurricane has this very weird sort of insecurity about it, where it felt the need to have like 3 of the best fucking overclocks in the game. And they all have their own caveats as well, by the way. That's the thing, which is why it's a good chance it's going to stay in B tier. But the Hurricane, in my opinion, is held up by these 3 overclocks, basically, in a lot of ways. Mine layer system, yeah, you have to put them in the ground, but it's like you can get the most total damage like in the game out of this thing with mine layer system and napalm rounds.
With the caveat of, you know, not being as aerial in its nature.
Yeah, and also it like taking away what the Hurricane is like inherently meant to be as well. You shoot it at the ground, and you also have no guidance, and there's arguably the same for both of these other ones too. You still have guidance and jet fuel homebrew, but it's so quick, and you have like, I think it's also harder to guide anyway, so it basically doesn't. And it's also weird because you can like because it still takes like 3 direct hits to kill a grunt, yet it will one-shot a grunt in the face. So it's like, it's a bit of an executioner problem. I'd argue still much better overall than executioner, but it's still some of the strongest and most like forceful direct damage, especially when you get those weak point hits in. Because it's also plus 50% weak point.
Gunner really likes to have, right? Let's Storm, Big Breath from Thunderhead, and jet fuel homebrew.
Well, this is the weird thing actually. Why I kind of have to agree with you about it being a middle ground, because it's the only one that actually has a weak point mod or overclock. And yet it's the rocket launcher. And then also you have salvo module, which is one of the best close range, like also damage per shot things.
The only thing I like using on the Hurricane. It's just, you're just like chilling, and you're like single firing, which isn't the most convenient thing in the world, but it's like you can still use the gun in its normal ring, and then there's like an enemy that you don't wish to be there anymore, and then they are gone. Like salvo module is just like fuck you, and then you just 9 rocket the shit out of like a poor grunt guard.
But obviously, they're very limited by range, though, obviously.
Yes.
This guy ain't, but it's also not as great at close range.
That's the thing, though. Is like, these 3 are good, and obviously we ignore Plasma Burster because
no, Tyler, we're not going to ignore Plasma Burster.
Okay.
Well, but see, you have these 2, which are good. Like this, like if you spec into area damage with this, that feels pretty good. And I think it probably still falls short of like the same build on the Hurricane. No, on the Thunderhead, I mean. You know, because you have like basically the same thing: fragmentation missiles and splintering shells. They're the same overclock, realistically. And I think the Hurricane sort of beats it out there, but it feels pretty good. The Thunderhead beats it out there. I get like, too confused. They're fucking, what's going on here? Storm, Thunder, Hurricane. Something going on there. I like it.
That was the point.
What's the next one? What's the next one going to be? Typhoon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is pretty fun too. I actually like adding fire rate to the Hurricane. It's pretty fun. But yeah, this guy, you know this guy, man who got his card. The one of the few cleans that is a downgrade.
Yeah.
Actually, didn't you say you kind of liked it? Actually,
I see the point of it. For stationary targets like a spitballer.
yeah, you can like fire
you
can like drop your load and then like look away from it.
and then move on. But yeah,
That's
but
what
if you
I
like,
do with women.
if you move on too early, then you're like shots won't hit, and then you get fucking murdered by it, and it's annoying as hell. And that is a solution to that. Or you could use jet free homebrew and you'll kill it a lot quicker.
Exactly.
Well,
you
yeah.
can just look at it for like a couple of seconds and it will die.
Yeah, it's a very weird clean. Which really they didn't need to add. It already had 6.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like they had to because fucking all of Gunners. Actually, no, it doesn't. Maybe it's because of this guy. It's got 7. But
I think they added it because maybe one of the devs or a couple of the devs found it annoying when that occurred. So they're like, "Fuck it, we're the devs. We'll just add an overclock that could cure that problem for us."
yeah,
Like,
I also think it's actually got a pretty decent mod selection as well. This is actually a pretty big credit I would give to the Hurricane. Actually, is that it makes AOE radius very competitive with ammo, which you wouldn't think is possible. And that's because of Minelay system, actually, to be fair, because it has like, yeah, it says times 1.5 AOE radius. It's like a lot bigger AOE, and it gets even a lot bigger when you increase that radius. So it's like actually way more efficient. You can get like, you know, like grenade launcher sized radius out of the individual rockets if you take Minelay system and increase blast radius, you know, and that makes it compete with ammo pretty like well. And same here, like in the context of the Hurricane, you get 36 more ammo if you take magazine size. Yeah, this fire rate is like very much so. At the same time, armor breaking is broken.
And not as in the good way, right?
What?
As in
it doesn't work.
Breaks things and literally broken. Doesn't fucking.
Yeah, the thing is, this is the thing. Someone mentioned this, and I was going to bring. This is one of the like user comments I was actually had in store for like the podcast. I was one of our actual loyal followers. It said that you'd be able to 2-shot grunts with body shots with jet fuel homebrew if armor breaking worked, which would make jet fuel homebrew way better because then you can actually 2-shot grunts without having to hit them in the head, and it actually meets like a valuable break point compared to not using jet fuel homebrew. You know, so that to me needs to be fixed because then jet fuel homebrew is like shoots straight up to an S tier overclock, even though it arguably could be anyway. But yeah, passive custom missiles. Actually, no, I don't want to talk about it. Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
The point is, it's fucking awful. It's an awful overclock. Yet it used to be like the most overpowered thing ever, and it's really sad.
It is just the Hurricane is just like the middle child between them. Like it's good at like everything to a good amount, but it doesn't really thrive anywhere. And where it kind of misses the mark, it really kind of chips it up and makes it fall.
It doesn't thrive anywhere like in a way that makes sense. This is what I mean about it's being somewhat insecure, where it has like 3 amazing builds, but they do not represent what the Hurricane is conceptually at all.
Well, yeah,
This isn't a case of it
turn
being
off the actual thing, like the rocket, which I think is something worth mentioning. If the best builds turn off the gimmick was bad, right? Like,
well, that's why to me the gimmick, I view the gimmick more as a deliberate like compensator. At the same time, that's kind of the case for the kind of primaries. Their gimmick is kind of the thing that's in there to hold them back, if you think about it. Like the Thunderhead's no, hold on, minigun. What are you saying? Flamethrower. What?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, minigun.
The minigun's like it like ramping up and like ramping down and all that. The heat. I mean, the minigun's got a few things, but like the Thunderhead like ramping fire rate because it starts. That sounds like a gimmick where you're like, oh, it builds up more fire rate. No, it starts at lower fire rate. It's a drawback, not something else. But the Hurricane to me, it feels too gimmicky to be like intended as a compensator, you know. And yeah, I think it might be still. I think that might still be the point of that mechanic. But I don't know if that was necessarily wise.
Well, it is another thing that, I don't know, like, all the Gen 3 weapons generally, they did kind of decide to add, like, a little extra thing to, like, all of them.
Arguably, except...
Gimmick.
Well, I mean... Yes. Yes, everything kind of has a gimmick, but not everything by default has a gimmick in the game. You know, some things don't have like default gimmicks. You know, the GK2 and like the Sabata don't have gimmicks by default, and I'd argue probably a couple others. Just depends on what you consider a gimmick. You know, do you consider the fact? Do you consider the fact that the grenade launcher is a grenade launcher a gimmick? Because if you don't, then the grenade launcher doesn't have a gimmick.
It's just Gen 3s. Gen 3s, like all of them have something. The closest that doesn't is the Drac. Like it's like, even though technically I would argue Plasma is a bit of a gimmick, it's still the least one I'm concerned, because they added like a new gimmick for each one. And
the
I don't know.
Doesn't have anything new like inherently.
Yeah, it's like the least of it, and that's kind of a bad thing. But you know, it was just something that they were experimenting. They were adding new things, and that's what they did with Smart Rifle. And I think that was a bad idea. That's what they did with the Hurricane, and I don't think it was inherently a bad idea. I think homing missiles is a pretty bad idea.
It is a pretty bad idea, but it doesn't. The problem is it doesn't deliver on that. And here's the thing: so default Hurricane, I would consider B tier. Like if you consider default Hurricane and then like the clean overclocks, sort of like standard Hurricane builds that keep like true to itself. True Hurricane is what I'm saying is true Hurricane is B tier, but it has multiple S tier builds that I actually prefer using over either the Thunderhead or the minigun. So I don't know how to place it. I think a safe thing to do might be putting it in high B.
But I'm just gonna fight my stand for B, just because it should have had radiation, not fire. It should have had radiation, not fire.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Just
hold on,
minigun and fire.
Because
Why
I agree
against that.
Stop, because I agree. I think the fire has a lot of not a lot of value actually. It mainly kicks in with a mine layer system for me. But yeah. The fire should have been something else. It should have had its own. An effect to call its own, really. Because
it's like, if you like, seriously, like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. The minigun is a expert fire dealing machine, right? Why just tap on a pussy ass fucking fire mechanic to the fucking Hurricane? It's just, don't do that. Turn the rockets into fucking nukes. Just do that. That's cooler. That's better. That's different. Neurotoxin, fire, radiation. That would have been your fucking lookout. But no, fire, neurotoxin, fire. Fucking dumbasses. That is actually one of the things that legitimately pisses me out of the game, because it was just an objectively dumb idea. No one was thinking when they decided that.
No, I actually 100% agree. I would have taken electricity, by the way, even over fire.
Yeah, even that. Electricity is ass as a status effect, because everything's fucking immune to it.
Yeah, but at least it would have been interesting.
Well, yeah, more than fire. Like if they add anything,
as in Tyler, like, I mean, like they would have like a trail. Maybe it was an electric trail. That would be pretty cool.
I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. It's what they gave to the coil gun.
Sorry, I said I want to talk about plasma bursters. I've constantly run through the mental exercise of trying to fix plasma bursters. I don't think I can unless they just give it like a trail, because of the way it penetrates through things. I think a trail would help plasma bursters a lot. I can't really think of anything else though.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next guy, the man of the hour, the Tower of Power,
the sludge pump, the best thing to come out of the Gen 3 weapons.
I don't know. I couldn't give you an alternate answer. Actually, that's the thing. I couldn't. So I don't know if I disagree. Actually, I think I do disagree.
Well, yeah. Well, the issue is just put it there for now, because I think we're both going to agree that it's at least there. Yeah. The sludge pump as a thing, I when they showed it, I denied its value to the game.
I know, you did.
Because, and I still stand by this, but I've switched sides, in that the sludge pump is just sticky flames. This is the flamethrower like part 2 now. The sludge pump is covering the area in a elemental effect that slows down the enemy and deals damage, right? That's all the sludge pump. Well, not all the sludge pump.
That's the problem. No, that's the problem with that statement. You've got it the wrong way round. Is that sticky flames is just sludge pump light.
No,
It's the
I
other way.
don't.
So sludge pump is more than
Harry.
just that mechanic.
Oh no, that's the point though. That's the fuck. Like the point is that I'm not. The sticky flames came first, right? They
Yeah.
had sticky flames in the game as a mechanic, and then when they showed sludge pump, I was like, "This is literally sticky flames, but better."
Exactly, sticky flames
what was the
plus.
point in adding it? Yeah, and that was my idea at the time. But once we've used it, and I realized this is sticky flames, but fun and better. Like you can just universally fucking amazing. Like they made shooting the floor and or ceilings and or walls fun as hell.
It's also not just the puddles. Like you can kill grunts with the direct hits very easily.
Yeah, obviously.
You can use it.
It's
You
not
can
the only
use it
thing.
as like a corrosive grenade launcher if you want. You don't actually have to hit the floor at all.
Yeah,
You can just shoot it into
Obviously,
crowds, and there won't be any puddles. It will
That's
just
the
kill
thing.
everything.
It's not the best build in the world, but using the sludge pump as a actual just fucking direct damage weapon is an option.
Well, you don't even need to do that. I mean, even in the context of like using hydrogen and ion additive, which just makes the damage over time stronger, you can still use that as your like corrosion grenade. It doesn't have to do a lot of direct damage. It will just kill them all over time.
I'm not attacking the. I feel like you're defending it when I'm not attacking it. My point is that like I didn't like the sludge pump at first because I thought it was stepping on the flamethrower's toes, and I'm right. It is. It's stepping on the flamethrower's toes, saying this is how you do sticky, slow down damage over time on like terrain. Like you fucking moron.
It's also stepping on everything else's toes though, like in the game, because it has the sludge pump. Now, there's I think I would like to see corrosion in other places, right? At the same time, I kind of, on an objective standpoint, don't think that should be the case. The sludge pump owns corrosion so much, and it's also, like, I think it is the strongest status effect in the game. Maybe by a lot. Maybe.
You
think about
can say multiple things, like factual things about the corrosion. Corrosion as a status effect is, like, unstoppable, right? Like, enemies are vulnerable to it, right? But they can be afflicted by it and they will take damage by it. Like, I think the caretaker is it.
It's just the
right?
caretaker, actually.
It's just the caretaker. It's the only one that is like that just ignores, and they ignore all status effects.
Exactly. That's
not
because
saying
the caretaker
anything.
ignores all status effects, you know.
Yeah, but meanwhile, other enemies that have a tendency to ignore certain status effects. Like bosses, they like to ignore electricity. Generally, like most of all bigger bosses or bigger things, they fuck off to electricity. Other than some of the robot stuff, setting fire to dreadnoughts, stuff like that. The bigger things are, the worse they become at like getting frozen. Like the harder that is. But the corrosion effect doesn't give a fuck. Does not matter. You can be a fucking little swarmer to a dreadnought. You will get afflicted by it, and we will fuck you over.
Can you hear the music right now?
A little bit.
It's the sludge pump's theme song. This is.
Yeah, it is literally the sludge pump. Just says "fuck you" to the enemies. It is like you wish to not be constantly taking damage. Fuck you. You wish to not be slowed down to oblivion.
It's also I think now it does have self damage involved, right? As in you can hurt yourself by shooting a normal shot at the floor. At the same time, I think that's just compensation for the fact that it has its sludge radiance, that upgrade that doesn't exist built into it in the form of the charged shot. Right?
Yeah, not to mention they literally they made base sludge pump so fucking good when they buffed it. Like there was the mod that was like armor breaking, but they just added to the gun. They're like,
which made corrosion even better. Now corrosion is like the strongest damage over time. It slows down and it removes armor. It's like and you can also have two forms of it on an enemy at once if you have the puddles and the corrosion directly. I see where this is going. I see.
Yeah,
it's going towards your doom.
Yeah, it is like bog standard better than most status effects, other than engineer nuke grenade. Like that radiation is I think actually technically the strongest status effect in the game, but it was only that one. It might
be. Actually, I think it probably is. Except the only difference with radiation, I guess. radioactive plutonium. I don't know. They exist, and obviously the sludge pump
Exactly,
doesn't give
yeah.
a shit about that. Thank God,
even
only
like-
because we didn't get the caustic Maya. Only because.
Yeah, caustic Maya would be a bit of a elemental disadvantage situation, but no, the corrosive sludge pump doesn't have that. Doesn't give a fuck. Does not matter.
It just has the
and,
least
yeah.
weaknesses. Arguably out of any weapon.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, is I will say the corrosive sludge pump is so good on its own that its overclocks become not that valuable. Right?
Yes, I agree with that. But this is so. Yeah, we'll talk about that. But I think it really comes down to a discussion of what it takes to place a weapon in S tier. Does it have to have like really impactful overclocks, or like are we looking at this from like a design point of view where design-wise it's arguably flawed that the overclocks feel ineffective because the base weapon is so good? Is that actually a flaw? I don't quite know.
I feel like I don't know. It is something, but like in the overclocks being not that significant, it basically means that you can use most of all of them and they'll still be good, right? Like literally, you can use AG mixture, which is arguably one of the worst because it really doesn't do much to
it's
the
only
overall
one
gun.
of the worst because it doesn't make it. Yeah,
it's not
in
really
a way, I
any
agree.
better.
I think the only it's obviously it is an upgrade. It's a clean overclock, and I think it fulfills the niche of being like.
Yeah,
it's like the velocity mod on the grenade launcher. It means you can sort of handle things at a distance much easier.
Yeah, except that for most other guns, that overclock would be ass, and it is technically still ass, but it is usable because the base sludge pump is so enough that if you find that your issue with the sludge pump isn't any form of damage or dealing or anything like that, it is just its range, you can slap that on and you'll be able to use the sludge pump fine.
Well, also, but speaking
honestly,
of range,
it not
does.
A throw pick.
Well, hold on, because this is more of a driller primaries comparison thing. Speaking of range, it has drop off, yeah, but it also has. Would you call it unlimited range?
It has the most range of them. It does.
The projectile
doesn't
die before it hits terrain. That's the point, I think.
Yeah.
As in, these are like limited range sprays. Whereas sometimes it's a projectile, the overall range of which can be extended. It just inherently has more range.
The only argument you could really have is that the cryo cannon has snowball.
Tyler,
ice spear,
even then, because the things with snowball, it still I think overall has more drop off than sludge pump with AG mixture and velocity.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I'm just saying that the cryo cannon with not very pleasant build to use can compete in that. It isn't limited by its actual range. But yeah, sludge pump, you shoot at the right angle, it could go probably to the other side of the cave, especially with AG mixer, especially with low gravity on.
And I think that is actually that could be a bit more than just a niche as well. That's pretty legitimate.
I would argue that if you were to build towards that though, that would be like, other than actively not making a build and just putting random shit on, even though sludge pump it would probably still be alright, which I think may bring it up, to be honest with you. But like, I think even if you went for like a ranged build, which I don't see the real benefit of, it would still be strong. Like, it would still actually be a fine thing to do.
I think these 4 overclocks are actually good to great. You know, these guys, they're all great, really.
The disperser compound, isn't that the one I use like all the fucking time?
Yeah, that is the Sticky Flames one. That's the thing. That's the more fragments, which means more puzzles.
Yeah, so, literally that thing is I've never wanted anything more than that, to be honest with you. Literally a single charge shot, you've won. like you are not losing until it runs out.
Actually, I think if you take this and slow down and use like fire on the EPC, you can kill a Praetorian with 1 charge shot, I think. Anyway, these are all great though, because like Hydrogen Iron Active, I love that for just stacking damage over time. That's such a fun thing to do. And it just goes hard. You can do that with any. Well, you can do that with any of them, but it just goes hard into that, and I appreciate that.
Well, I think hydrogen additive is actually the best thing to go into a dreadnought fight with. I think that is because like It's either that or the actual direct shots
it does.
of
Well, I
them
think it is
dealing more
probably
damage.
this one. It's actually kind of these two. And
Yeah,
Sludge Blast.
dispersal compound's not bad, but like you don't really need a giant
but
area for
Hydrant
Dreadnought.
it increases damage over time and slow down.
Yeah,
But I think
like,
if you take that, you can like slow enemies down by like a ridiculous amount.
But like that,
over 80%.
that is literally the best thing Drilla has primary wise for a Dreadnought, and it's the Sludge Pump that has it. I think personally, like, and yeah, and that's just a like mid build as far as it's concerned. Well, I don't know. Like, that's the thing though, is I don't think the Sludge Pump has a peak build.
But
like,
that's because the Sludge Pump is peak,
unparalleled
Tyler.
one. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Yeah, like every single build you can build it to is still good because
that's the
as
thing. It's
you
almost
say,
impossible to make it bad,
we
except
actually-
with these two, and that's the kind of the point of them.
I would still deny that though. I would still say we don't like him, right? You and me don't like him. Tom uses Sludge Blast. He's still doing fine, right? Because the Sludge Blast is so good that even when you throw pick with those unstables, it's still fine.
I think Sludge Blast comes the closest.
Actually, ain't that bad, to be honest with you.
No,
It's just
I
a
like People
weird
Special.
alternate fire mode. That's it's not really that much more beneficial than creating a puddle area. Just creating a straight line, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah,
but
Kingdom Special is literally an alternate, just changing the charge shot, and that's why I respect it actually. Like these two, they just change the way it works. You know, they don't actually. Well, I mean, Sludge Blast can make it worse because you do have actually less ammo, and that's the problem I have with it. Sludge Blast changes the Sludge Pump too much, for me, personally, because I like how it is by default. You know, and I just like to make alterations on that.
The way I use this Sludge Pump is basically purely charge shots. I do not single shot.
I do a healthy mix of both. Actually, I've noticed. I'm not like hard line on either. I'm pretty like balanced.
Like the only time I'm firing the sludge, like sludge blast is basically not sludge blast because that's the actual thing. It's just sludge cannon. The only time I'm firing it is if there's enough enemies to warrant a charge shot. If there isn't, drills, pickaxe, secondary. That's it. That's how I use it. And I don't know, it's just so ungodly reliable. Like I struggle in Has 5 generally, but if I'm using the Sludge Pump, I'm doing alright. I'm doing alright. Like it's just a lot easier to do alright with the Sludge Pump.
Can't go. I mean, this is so yeah. We've actually been through a lot of good points. So I think we're just going to end up just like repeating ourselves if we go on any longer. But I want to point out that just generally how good also the composition here is of like upgrades. I think it's pretty fantastic. I mean, this tier is a bit dubious to me.
That's what they did, right? Season 2, they gave it because a lot of people started playing Season 3 through Season 2. Season 2, they gave it like the GK treatment of the recently. They refined the shit out of its mods and buffed it, which no one really expected, to be honest with you. Like no one was actually thinking it was that weak, but yeah, they buffed it, refined it, and it is like it's just in one of the best states that any gun in the game currently is. It's been given the most care. Like if we were to critique the Loki one for being like unpolished, untouched, and that, the Sludge Pump feels the opposite. It's their favorite. They've kept it so pristine and so amazing, and like give it so much love and care that it's just unparalleled really in its usability.
I just want to talk about how good these two tiers are though. Tier 4, you've got -1 ammo per charge shot, or like very quick charge time. This actually means that the ammo, like the charge shots, actually use less ammo, and yet this I prefer. That's how good that is balanced out. You could be like way more efficient with this. Yeah, this just feels so good.
On the left, but
exactly. That's the thing though. This seems like on paper like so much better because you just gain ammo from it basically.
Yeah, but it's only really if you use charge shots
compared to damage. The slowdown is great.
Yeah, because slowdown is such a huge component to the Sludge Pump. Like, it's like 50% of its value. You deal a bunch of corrosion damage and you slow them down a shit ton, right? And that's what tier 5 is. Those are your options. Shit ton of corrosion damage or slowdown. Like, it is just, well, you do both at the same time, but which one you want to do more of is up to you. But yeah, the Sludge Pump is just so well made. And I think that's the thing. I mean, if we want to go back to the tier list now, because I think we've seen enough of that. While I do not think it is inherently as strong as the Thunderhead, and its builds aren't as broken as the Thunderhead, I think we have to give it the respect it deserves in how flawless of a gun it is, and put it in S. It is one of, if not the best made guns in the game.
I'm actually just so with you.
Yeah.
I do want to look at something though. What do we? Okay, let's say maybe your build. I don't know. Let's just fucking damage up the wazoo or something. I don't know this. I don't know if it will tell me if it will be have a good. Okay, 57,000 total multi-target damage. I feel like it can do better than that, because you can definitely hit more than 5 enemies. Either way, that's not particularly useful actually. That's better for actually more ballistic weapons, like, you know, when you draw up between like neurotoxin and mine layer. Either way, yeah, I'm glad we actually came back around to this, because like I think it was after we recorded part 1. I was like, so sludge pump, and he's like, S. It's like yes. And then like I think like a week later we were like, you weren't sure. Or maybe were you even sure when we started this episode?
No, because I was thinking, because the way I see it is that, like, you know, because we look at overclocks, and I look at, I was thinking of overclocks, and I think of the unstable, and like they're both not viable, really. They're both like, you know, not that good.
Isn't it? You're just like pretty obsessed with dispersal compound, but they're all good.
Well, no, that's the thing. Yeah, but they're all like not that good, but they are all like, I don't know. Yeah, it is just like, they don't need to be that much. They don't need to be neurotoxin payload. They don't need to be Big Bertha. They just need to slightly push the gun in the direction that you want to for your playstyle, and that's enough because of how strong the sludge pump was. That's what I didn't get before now, is that the sludge pump default is so abominably strong that the overclocks don't need to be that much.
Boring, and that sounds weird, I think.
Incredibly fun.
It's actually a very satisfying weapon to use, and I think I prefer using it to the Thunderhead in general.
I think that's what I have to like. This is like, if anything, if I want to get into any controversy or any like arguments online with anyone, it is, I want you to somehow like convince yourself and then try me that using sticky flames is more fun than the sludge pump, because using the sludge pump is better than sticky flames, so it's got to be for fun reasons, or else the fuck are you using sticky flames for?
Right, bro,
other than the fact that it's the best thing on the flamethrower.
I'm laying sticky flames on the fucking ceiling 100 meters away. What are you doing with your stupid little flamethrower? Fuck all.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, yeah, like you're spinning around in circles. I'm just charging a shot, shooting it at the ceiling, and having God rain down upon me. Like, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, the corrosion, sludge pump is so strong and so fun, and it is just, it's well designed as well. I really like the look of it. Not that we've really used that argument for anything else, but it's just like, it's so like, it's just a cement mixer, the gun, and it's funny as hell.
It is kind of ugly, actually, but it works.
It's ugly in the good way, in that it's a corrosive sludge pump, right? It was never going to be a beautiful gun. It's gritty. It's like dirty. It
looks like it was made like it was. This is not a commissioned weapon. This is a fucking slapped together.
This is a war crime in a bottle. Like it's, I don't know. The sludge pump is amazing. I think it's the best driller weapon. I prefer the cryo cannon.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense after everything you just said, though. That doesn't make...
It purely comes down to the fact that...
Even from an opinion piece, you're like, I love it, I love the sludge pump, it's really fun to use. It's like, but I like the cryo cannon more. Like, huh?
It's just because Cryo Driller is just the most fun shit in this entire game. And if that wasn't in the game, I still wouldn't be playing it. I wouldn't be playing it.
But this is the difference between those two. Like, tuned cooler cryo cannon is... That's what sludge pump is by default. It's like at that level.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's like the sludge pump is perfect by default, which is why the overclocks are like, just, you can use any of them.
That is the thing though, really, isn't it? Like the cryo cannon and flamethrower, their objective is to apply their status effect. Like, and they have to like work towards that. Obviously, flamethrower not that much, cryo cannon quite a bit, but the sludge pump, nah, it just does it. Like instantaneous, right? Upon contact,
it's also a strong enough status effect when you don't feel like you're just like waiting for things to die, especially like the small stuff.
You're watching them like disintegrate piece by piece in front of you as the acidic fucking corrosion takes their
Like,
family away.
As long as you didn't wait for it to get within melee range, that grunt will die from that single shot before it gets to you.
and obviously, like, I'm not sure how often. I think we've vaguely mentioned some builds with secondaries. Like, I think we've kept them pretty separate, but like Wave Cooker EPC, it works godsend. And I've conceived of the build, but I've yet to use Sludge Pump with tranquilizer rounds for the Sabata, because I assume that would just be pretty good, right?
Wait,
just holding him in place.
Because that's not doing a better job at holding them in place, because they're stunned. They can't move. They're tranquilized.
Exactly. They can't leave the fucking battle.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's not a terrible point.
Point is that like the only conceivable build with a Sabata I could think of is that one.
Well, actually, so I want to talk about the Sabata a little bit at the end, like once we're done, because I want just something in relation to something that someone said about Sabata rework, and I got a fantastic idea for the direction they should go with that. Anyway, so I think we should probably move on from the Sludge Pump, because we're not going to come up,
sure. There's not much else we can say.
Any actual criticisms, because you can't, because
there's no criticisms that wouldn't be stating facts, like with other things. I think in part 1 I described it like, it's not hit scan infinite range, right? It isn't that.
But if it was,
but that's not negative.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be hit scanned.
Yeah, those are the only kind of criticisms that we could levy. That it isn't a weapon that it isn't, right? It is not a hit scan insta killing machine. It is just what it is, and what it is, it does an amazing job of. So yeah, and even then, the AG mixture range, you can get range on the Sludge Pump, which isn't really something you can do with the other weapons. But yeah, it's just fucking good, man. It's just so good. Such a well-designed weapon in all regards.
Means you're going to
so
use
much
it
care
now.
and attention.
You're going to use it now, and you'll be like,
no, yeah, because I'm
you just need to understand that this is like, I feel like reacting to, if we did this just right after playing the game, or playing the game while doing this, you'd be like reacting to like your most recent experience with the weapon, and that could be bad. This is drawn more from your objective, like just observations, and also just what your subconscious tells you about the weapon. This is divorced from the context of having just played the game or playing it like currently. So I think it's more true, actually, because it's less reactionary. It's more based on what you actually believe, rather than what you just experienced. So yeah, I think it's fair.
This is objective fact. I think that's what we could agree on, right?
Yeah. That's what I was getting towards. That's what I was saying.
Are just pure, unbiased facts, and we definitely don't put some things way lower than they deserve because we just don't like them.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't know. We definitely don't have like a giant fan favorite sitting in C. Like people who think undeniably that the M1000 is the best of Scout's weapon.
There are no M1000 fans. Only hipster fans.
Yes. Yes.
And that one guy who uses hover clock.
That's our argument for like most of our lowest tiers.
Look, hover clock's pretty cool, actually. I mean, it's not strong, but it's pretty cool.
I don't. It's just awkward.
In concept, where it's like it makes you hover, and then if you get a kill, you can hover again. I don't know. It's kind of funky.
It's a bit. It's not as. It doesn't play as well as it sounds. It does. Like that's really all it comes down to. But yeah, that was for last video. So no more M1000 talk. Moving on to the Drac.
It's the Drac.
Now the thing is about the Drac.
Here we go.
I disagree. I think greatly. But I think we're also going to have to bring up something from part 1 in the whether or not Deep Core should go to S, because I think put the Drac in A, because I think that is not a B weapon. No matter how much I may not particularly like it, it's not a B. But either GK2 or the Drac is going in S, because they are not the same tier. That's the way I see it.
After my recent, I think I actually need to use both of them more somehow. I somehow need to use Drac more, only in comparison. Because personally, I think they are kind of they're at the same level for me, I think, of just being fantastic. And for different reasons, like for so many different reasons, and also a lot of similar reasons somehow as well. It's going to be very difficult for me to navigate, but basically what it comes down to, what I realised recently after how much I played with the Drac, is all of its overclocks are good, and even all of its upgrades are good as well. It's just less accessible than the deep core, I think, slightly. For example, so I think probably the biggest surprise to me when I was using the Drac was backfeeding module. Oh no, rewiring mod, right? The one that regenerates ammo. I use that with Plasma Splash, and you have like short bursts of like AoE, and if you keep it in control with manual heat dump, you actually get a really effective way of just clearing up anything. And it's also even good at single target damage, because the Plasma Splash adds flat damage, like it's unaffected by weak points, but it's flat damage that ignores armor. So Plasma Splash is even better than I thought, and so is Rewiring Mod. I think these are all good overclocks, and I think actually, when you compare the two, I think the GK2's cleans are all kind of unimpactful. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah.
Except Homebrew Powder, just because it's a good damage increase. But these are fairly unimpactful.
Bad,
the Drac,
yeah.
These are all impactful, in my opinion, except this one.
Thermal liquid cooled.
Because it's just a straight.
Fuck yourself.
It's just a straightforward clean. I guess my point is I love literally everything about the Drac, and especially considering all the different directions that you can take it, and they're all good. It's just I just think most of it is less obviously good, and I appreciate that fact that the GK2 is on face value a far more effective weapon, because you can almost like make builds that feel like defective with the Plasma Carbine if you're not careful. It's very possible to make it feel bad, whereas I think the GK2 avoids that much more consistently. But the Plasma Carbine has much more engaging builds for me. Yeah,
I think I get what your point is that like the GK2 and the Plasma Carbine, well, they don't really actually do the same thing, obviously, but they reach the same highs. It's just the Drac is a lot harder, therefore more fun / interesting to do. Is that what you're saying? Like, because like you can get the GK2 to be good quite easily. You can fuck the Drac like pretty hard. In like, you know, you make your build wrong, or like it's just, I don't know. Is your point that the Drac is just harder to make like good?
Possibly. Because obviously it's hard for me to say that, because I know exactly how to make it good with all 6 of these overclocks. That's the thing.
Prove it.
You want me to do it right now?
Yeah, fuck it. Well,
actually, I want to point out something. Aggressive venting is kind of weird. It's obviously not an upgrade. You get a lot. Though it's obviously not a downgrade. I mean, you can get a shit ton of free AOE damage out of it, but I still sometimes take issue with it. Sometimes I feel quite dangerous. But just make that would be it. You just have fire rate with electricity, which means you can get bonuses and Zukovs. It just pairs well with the secondaries as well. I do
like its
even the
trick thing. It's good.
Even the fucking boomstick, actually, like these two, when I use them for AoE, I actually like using jumbo shells, because you use Plasma Splash on these, right? You use Plasma Splash, which means you don't get electricity, which means you can't get the bonuses from either the crossbow or the Zukovs. So having jumbo shells is just this solid chunk damage that doesn't rely on anything else actually feels pretty good with these two. which is actually
I think
it even makes the boomstick feel better. That's what I'm saying.
I think the thing is with the Drac, and I think this is probably why not many people actually, because I think the Drac is the least favorite of the bunch, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, people don't actually like the Drac.
Insane. I thought that was stupid before I used all the overclocks like thoroughly.
Here's the part is I think I get why, because
is it because what I said is actually true about it being hard to make? It must be, right?
Kind of, yeah, because I've fumbled it a lot. Like that's probably why I don't like it as much. But like I know why. It's because it does something that Scout doesn't normally do, at least with the primaries. It does AoE. It does actual legitimate AoE. And when when it came out, we were like, fuck yeah, finally a Scout primary that does AoE, right? Mm-hmm. However, I think that's what people's issue with it is, because people don't want / aren't used to / don't need AoE with the primary.
Exactly, like and it doesn't appear to be good at like what the other two are good at before you get further into it. Like I think the problem that people might have of it is that it's difficult to make it compete in terms of single target damage, even though it can, by the way. So basically how I view it, you've got these 3 are for AoE and these 3 are for single target damage. The unstables all are, and they're all for different reasons. So thermal exhaust feedback. I use fire for single target damage. Yes, you do. You do that now.
Electrocute. That's my build on that.
Also,
like, put that on and electrocute.
That just feels great. The thing is, it's not meant to be a precision weapon anyway. It does good single target damage without being precise. Like Ocean Particle Accelerator is massive damage, right? But obviously you have to get quite close. Shield Battery Booster is weird, I grant, but you combine these two with like Cryo, and that's the thing. It's more direct damage than the other two have, which means if you can freeze things, it's stronger. Because you have more ammo and more damage. You just don't have the weak point bonuses. But if you can freeze things, then you're just a lot stronger than the other two. Which is why it pairs well. But I don't think it relies on the secondaries either, though, because it can do the most out of the primaries anyway. It can be pushed in the most like different directions. Because even like I said, these two are for AoE, but they feel great like when you use them single target as well, because you have Plasma Splash. You fire it like beneath a Praetorian, it actually ends up doing like more damage than you can do by hitting it directly.
I really tried that build, the plasma, the impact deflection Plasma Splash, and I couldn't quite get behind it. It felt really weird. Are you supposed to not hit them? You are, right? You're supposed to like hit the ground next to them, or like
you're kind of meant to shoot just below things' mouths.
So like it splashes hitting them and then it bounces and hits them again. Is that the point of it?
Yeah, you hit them once with direct damage, but you get 2 splashes that hit them, and it actually results in more damage.
It's a weird one. It's definitely a weird one, but I don't know. Yeah, and I'm not fond of exhaust vectoring, like not exhaust vectoring. Well, yeah, the one that makes you just burst out heat in an area when you need to overheat. I don't like that as a mechanic in the game as a whole.
And I kind of I can respect that as an opinion. So I don't think that's a horrible. That's not a horrible take, really.
Yeah, like my dislikes with the Drac comes from not. Like, it doesn't come from me thinking it's weak, unlike everything in C. It comes from me it's just not my gun. Like, it's really, that's my issue with it. It's just not my kind of gun, which I would define most of Scout's ones. That's why I don't really use him.
Both the GK2 and Plasma Carbine are my kind of thing for different reasons. And I think in a lot of people's eyes they aren't equal, and I think I understand the reasons why. I think when you get down to it, I don't think it's a flaw with the Drac that it can be. You kind of have to be more deliberate with how you build it.
No.
I think they are. I think they're equal. They're equal to me.
Right. If you're all right, yeah. I don't know. It's just that. Yeah. It's the fact that I've just
why?
to really find
because I thought that for just a little bit after we did like the first part of this tier list, I thought maybe the Drac is weaker, but and that's only because I hadn't used all of the overclocks really. And somehow it was shield battery booster and rewiring mod that pushed me over the edge.
I think that's the thing though, because
Somehow
you
I made these two feel amazing. I thought they were
right?
bad. I thought they were straight up bad overclocks. But that's the thing. On face value, they kind of are. They come with some pretty major downsides. You have a lot less ammo of this, and it forces you to work in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you realise that you can build it to be like, you take fire rate, you take manual heat dump, plasma splash, you have like these short bursts where it essentially acts more of just a plasma grenade that in the form of bullets. And you realise that it actually works. But that's the thing, maybe that's the problem, that it sort of comes from having to like realise the ways that it can work instead of just seeing
I think you really have to experiment with the Drac for it to reach like the same levels as a GK2.
That's also kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's inherently a bad thing, but I think it's another reason why people aren't that fond of it, because you'll kind of like you'll continue using it for like a lot of time, a reasonable amount of time, yet it still isn't working, because you need to put in more than an unreasonable amount of time to really get it all to work.
But in my opinion, the Drac would be pointless if it wasn't this complicated, which sounds kind of strange, but it wouldn't. It would be it would fall flat and and it would be what most people see it as. But it isn't. It isn't because of how complex you can get. Like, it's not like the Hurricane where you have like 3 fantastic builds, like really specific. It has like 6 of those. Each overclock represents a different like foothold that it has in like the meta. I think rewiring mod actually has multiple ways you can build it that makes sense actually. That's the thing. And even shield battery booster can act as like a flat ammo increase, because it gives you plus 100 ammo and fire rate without the shield part. So you can use that and take more damage and just have like a stronger weapon, you know. I don't know what I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, Tyler.
Well, I don't think it's this still. It's not those 2 tier, but I am willing to say that they are both just very good. They're both very solid weapons.
And it should be noted, by the way, that the deep core got like a massive buff. The plasma carbine actually got a bit of a nerf after launch.
So if anything, they take a look at Scout's weapons and they realised, hey, Drac's a bit strong. Meanwhile, no one was spouting that because no one likes the Drac.
It just had too much ammo. That's the thing. That was it.
Yeah.
You could get over 1,000, just like as like the number that was shown, and that just didn't feel right, I think. No.
Well, it's a testament to it being basically a quasi minigun, which is the thing you like to say, and I can't disagree with.
Kind of like, it's kind of interesting. You can sort of view these two as like the minigun split in two, and sort of taken to the extremes of its different like sides of it, you know.
Yeah.
Of its different facets. I kind of just I think I agree with that sentiment that I just invented. I think I agree.
Oh, I'm glad you agree with yourself.
So am I.
Alright. Yeah. Okay, so I think before we say that this is it, I think we do a rundown. Are we comfortable with those 2 sitting on top?
Well, hold on. This is what we
and the sludge pump.
What we need to figure out is, do we want to do like a 7th video on this, like after 6?
I want to do a 20-minute one summarizing each of our thoughts on each of the guns and why they're there.
As in, we could do it on the day of like the final one.
Of the
but we record it separately. It would
Yeah.
basically be the stuff that we say after doing like the Gen 3 secondaries, except it would be its own video. But it wouldn't be like this long at all. It would be like 20 minutes. It would be our final thoughts, but wrapped up. And it'd just be us presenting our full tier list, basically.
Yeah, but like, that would be with like confidence as well. This is me double checking.
Yeah,
right?
This doesn't have to be 100%. It has to be 100% for now. But that doesn't mean it can't change at the very end. As in, we can't really change this while we're doing the secondaries, but that's the thing. I don't think we can't really change it during that. But yeah, okay. So I guess we gotta see if we're happy with the tiers individually. But maybe we should go from the bottom then.
I think the radical ones are the most important ones, to be honest with you. Which I guess we'll start at the bottom. Yeah, M1000, the smart rifle, and the stubby. Do we honestly think that those three, like, if
Well,
the
no,
ghost
Tyler,
ship
it
was,
comes
hey,
down to the
what should we?
question. It comes down to the question of, are these the weakest primaries? And to that
Yeah.
to that question, I would say yes.
Well, the thing is with you, I think we've got to acknowledge that there's a D. Do we think that a gun there could be brought down to D, and what we
Any of these?
could say that they are the weakest weapon?
No. I don't personally.
I
don't know if I
have
can.
to agree with you, because all of them I think have like one build that's usable, like Hipster 1000. Or an overclock that makes it usable,
That's the
I
thing,
should
though.
say.
That's the thing, bro.
Hipster
The
1000.
M1000 comes the closest to being the worst for me.
Yeah.
Which sounds ridiculous, but it's how popular it is.
That's the issue, though. Is Hipster M1000 is the best out of the three, right? Hipster M1000 is like A to S tier, probably more A. Like on its own, like strength wise, it would be really strong. But like every other build it has is not that good.
Yeah, but Tyler, I'm going to be
All
100%
the buffs-
honest. This might sound insane. I don't think Hipster is better than the best of the Drac or the GK2 even.
It just, I don't know. It is the play style that greybeards, like actual proper greybeards that are like scout mains have. The M1000 with Hipster is just the best thing for them.
And I don't
That's why everyone loves the M1000, or like high tier players love the M1000, and then everyone else copies it, and because Hipster makes it usable. Like,
It's the overpowered overclock.
yeah. Or overpowered, or just one overclock that counters out how shit it is. Basically,
It's basically that.
It is actually, I think you said, they just need to bring over most of Hipster's ammo onto the base gun, so then other builds become usable or viable. Like, because here's the thing, you can't pick two overclocks, you have to pick one, and you're only ever going to pick Hipster. So something needs to change there for the other overclocks to start shining.
Yeah, I think
because they buffed gas recycling, right? And it's gas
super cooling chamber. Super
cooling chamber. I liked it, and you saw it, right? Like, you do a lot of fucking damage. Issue is not a lot of ammo.
You do become a bit disabled, don't you?
Yeah, a bit disabled, and you don't need to do that much damage. That's the thing. That's why not many people use the overclock. It's not worth the lack of ammo because you aren't reaching any new breakpoints.
But if it had some of Hipster's ammo, you would feel less incapable. You know,
you would feel more inclined that, like, you'd rather do that much. You would be like, I can justify dealing too much damage because I've got enough ammo to back it up, right? Like, you know, because it's like, it is wasted damage with wasted ammo at that point. But with Hipster, it's like so. So basically, Hipster M1000 is the reason why everyone loves it, and that's why it actually truly belongs in C, because it's a crutch overclock. I would say the low-key smart. Yeah, the smart rifle does have all right builds, but overall as a gun, it's just kind of lacking.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think the smart rifle feels pretty. That's the problem with the smart rifle. It just doesn't feel like a great gun. You know?
I would say the smart rifle, on an actual note, though, probably is more B. It's more flamethrower cryo cannon.
I know, but it's so not casual in its use. And
it's just not fun to use. That's why it's down this far. It's not in B. It's because it's just not nice.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you can get more damage with the stubby pretty easily, though. Is the thing. I mean, if you just look at what Cole.gg presents on face value. Oh, hold on. Okay, so look at this. I wish I could actually show this more accurately on the video. Hold on. I need total damage in the frame. This is really awkward. There you go, you see total damage. This is smart rifle, you can see total damage. No, this isn't worth the effort.
Okay.
It just relies on bonuses more, that's the thing, right? The smart rifle actually relies on bonuses and actually precision.
Oh, do you need to adjust the recording for this now?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought you'd do
No, I was scrolling in the browser, not changing things on OBS. Right. But no, it's just that it relies actually on precision and like bonuses to actually get the damage that it needs, really, and I think that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially the precision part. I feel like the smart rifle, it almost doesn't do enough work for you. It feels like it should be doing more for you than it does. You know?
Yeah, you have to do so much to make it usable.
It's far more cumbersome to use than a smart rifle should be, because it's more difficult to use than just a normal SMG. The stubby isn't strong, but it's easier to use.
Yeah, you just shoot at the enemy you want shot. With the smart rifle, you put the lock-on system, and then you shoot the enemy you want to shoot like 2 times, and it shoots all the other enemies around it like 2 times, and you're like, I don't want that to fucking happen.
The only bonuses the stubby has is like weak point damage, and that's just normal. You just shoot them in the face, or electricity bonus where it does more damage to electric enemies. It's an electric SMG. That's not a problem. The smart rifle. It's like, oh, you need to get an acceptable amount of damage out of Executioner. You need them to be on fire. You need to be at full lock, and you have to hit the weak point. It's like, I'm not sure this is right. I feel like I'm doing too much work here.
Yeah, and then that is like one of the only good builds. That and the explosive 3 thing is really it, because that's then a actual AOE, a pretty solid AOE build for the smart rifle. And it's like those 2 builds are like barely usable, lacking in ammo.
The smart rifle
you know,
does have, I don't know, kills swarmers easily. I don't know.
I think smart rifle should be in B, not because I think it doesn't belong down low. I think it's just that our B isn't good, right? Like our B is not that positive. Like it is the guns that are kind of lacking still, which is maybe why we should bring it all down a section or something. Maybe we should, I don't know, I think, because if you can't bring yourself to put the smart rifle in B, we need to put the M1000 and maybe stubby in D or something like that.
That's what I was thinking. Because the thing is, that looks bad because it's like, oh, it's like the bottom tier. Maybe we should add another tier hit below?
No, because if we're not going to use it, then why would we? This just accurately describes...
You think this makes more sense?
And I think we'd probably put the flamethrower down in C with it, maybe, because, you know,
something like that makes...
Maybe.
My instincts tell me I know, but you might be right. Hold on, hold on, because is that too, like, extreme of a change? Moving these 2 down a tier? Or is it because... Do we really want to sort of, like, adjust how we view the tiers like that?
Well, the thing is, right, S is amazing, like incredibly strong and or flawless, right? That's what S means. A is very good, has some flaws in some areas, has some bad builds, but overall strong. B has like a good build or a couple good builds, but it's just completely lacking behind that. And then C is how do people like these guns, I would say, is what it currently is, right? And if we're fine with that, then I guess we keep it as is. But I don't know. I think we got to sort it out quick because we haven't got all the time in the world. Well, we do technically,
do you know
but
do you know what's fucking with me? You know what's really fucking with
you?
Warthog.
The Warthog being an A.
Yeah.
I don't. It does not belong in B.
Especially after everything we just said about the Drac and the Deep Core.
Nah, the Warthog. Point out a flaw of the Warthog. Like build wise, like magnetic pellet alignment is strong, good. Mini shells strong, good. I'll be honest, I can't think of any other. The automatic one, whatever that one is, people quite like. That's pretty strong, pretty good. It's not in B. If B is what it is, B is. If you want to bring the Warthog down, we need to start putting stuff in D.
Okay. So I guess it's a question of it's more of a question of actual strength, right? So you look at A tier. Is the Warthog as strong as these guys?
Its character, or like as strong as it should be. Maybe because we're not going to be able to compare the killing potential of the minigun and the Warthog, are we? Like, that's not fair.
No, I guess not. I mean,
I guess not. You should have been doing that for an instant.
Kind of even the other two, when you think of the most efficient builds that you can get.
Well, yeah, I think the engineers' primaries are worse than scouts' primaries. Not in like a bad way. Obviously, that is what it says, but I mean in a literal way, that they were designed to be slightly worse because his secondaries are so strong and he has turrets.
And
his primaries
exactly.
are basically
I don't
support.
believe that to be the case for Scout. You know, I think for a while we're like, oh, he's like held back in terms of firepower. It's just like not necessarily. It's just that his sort of
sustained he doesn't have much of.
Well, I think it's just that both his primaries and secondaries are like pretty similar level of strength. There's neither one is like objectively like higher than the other, like overall.
Seconds gets like pushed all into like an ammo pool.
Well, no, I just mean like if everyone else you can identify, it's like you know, driller and gunner, their primaries are stronger than their secondaries, and then engineer, it's like the other way around. But with Scout, it's not, and that's why he seems weaker overall. But he's got, like, you know, if you count the M1000 out as just being a bit odd, he actually has really powerful primary weapons.
Yeah. Well, the M1000, if it actually lived up to his potential, it would be, right? Like, if the M1000 was a good marksman rifle / sniper, then it would be very strong. But it just currently ain't that because it doesn't have the ammo pool behind it.
I don't know if we need to. I don't think we need to move him down. If anything, I'd want to make a higher tier.
No. What?
No.
Why?
Yes, we can't.
A higher tier would S and A would become a higher tier if we just start using D. If we just make B, fine, right? Because B is not good at the moment. B is lacking. C is, God forbid.
It's sort of become... C has become the bottom tier. That's the problem.
Exactly.
But it's sort of just like splitting these, like taking these three and like which ones don't belong there. Do they? I feel like these three belong together at the same time. Oh fucking hell, bro! Fucking hell.
I think we.
You don't need to be watching this, by the way.
Yeah, if you want, just skip to the end and we'll have some sort of conclusion. In fact, please do, because this is... I mean, if anything, we could pause this, but we'll record it just in case you want to hear it. Like, but the fucking M1000, it is barely usable with anything other than hipster. That is why it's down that low. That is at least what we think, right? No, I'm just stating the facts. Let's stop muddling the water.
No, I'm not going to. I don't want to muddle the water. I just want to clarify a bit more beyond that. Like, I don't know if not usable is the right word, but the M1000, it's definitely that when you compare it to the other two and how like flawless they are. I mean, actually, look, I mean the plasma carbine is not flawless. It's sort of flawless in terms of matching the frequency of good builds, the GK2. Yeah. But it's got weird problems. But I think literally its problem is that it's weird. But the M1000, it's like it has awkward like break points. You know, you can one-shot grunts in the face. Yeah, sure, but that's 2 ammo still you need to use to do that. But if you just shoot like a hip-fire shot into a grunt's face and it doesn't kill it, but it leaves it on like a sliver of health, that's fucking annoying. Right? And then the GK2 and the plasma carbine with their massive ammo pools, you don't get that problem at all.
Yeah, the M1000 relies on numbers hard. The exact amount of ammo, the exact amount of damage is incredibly important to that gun. Meanwhile, the DK2 and the Drac, they have an ammo pool. Therefore, the numbers don't really matter.
Yeah, the numbers.
The amount of ammo don't really matter.
They never leave enemies on an awkward amount of health. You know.
Yeah. Because it's not awkward with a larger pool of ammo. So it's just the M1000. I don't know.
It doesn't make that smaller ammo pool work in its favour.
Yeah, it needs to be very exact, and this is something that maybe Ghost Ship needs to work on a little bit more with, specifically the classic. It needs to literally be like everything needs to be like statistically on point. Like every upgrade mod, everything needs to just work in the right amount. Like everything needs to be purposeful. That these mods together shouldn't like one shot headshot at a grunt or something. Like it needs to be purposeful. Where I think Ghost Ship, they don't really feel like they do that. Like with the bigger pools, they don't really need to, right? They don't really have to worry about it. But like the M1000, I think it just needs a bit more like touching up. But like I don't know. I think honestly,
and like the Warthog, which actually is a very similar ammo pool, doesn't really suffer because you can like always one shot grunts in the face with the Warthog. I think no matter what,
and it only costs like one shot, one ammo, right? And I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't have range to it, which isn't that big of an issue, really.
It does. The M1000 also has some bad overclocks. I don't know. Electrocuting focus shots really butters my balls in a bad way. That means anything.
I don't know, maybe pull up Carl. Like, this is going to take a real long while. At this point, please do skip. But like, pull up Carl. Let's go through the M1000's overclocks. Let's just do it. Let's see which ones are usable, which ones are fucking garbage, and then we'll go off that.
Actually, I want to. Maybe we should do sort of. We can very briefly do the other two.
Oh yeah.
Obviously usable.
Not
obviously
bad.
usable.
Not bad.
Good.
Yeah. Bit fun. Yeah.
You know.
Good.
Actually, if we want to give like a kind of ratings, like yeah, great, hello. So,
yeah.
Obviously. In the context of the Drac, that is like nothing. That's like because that's like worse in my opinion than these two, but it's still just a clean.
Actually, a good clean. I don't like it, but it's for clean. As far as cleans go, just 3 damage.
Yep.
Next is rewiring and that, which is
Weird.
Funky. These ones are all funky. They're all funky versions of doing simple things.
Also, they're not. Yeah, I guess it's something about the Drac. They're not all inherently like usable.
They're not easily positives.
But they are all usable. They can be pushed to be massive positives. Like
you don't just get given ammo on the Drac. You have to earn it.
This guy's just that's
fantastic.
The
simplest one. Simple damage. That is obviously complicated damage.
Good / amazing, like as in amazing half the time, or even less than half the time, but it's always good. Actually, that's the thing. And that guy.
Yeah. Simple.
The dude.
Heat affliction.
This is the rad overclock. It's just more rad than everyone else. It's just cool.
Yeah, like the GK2 and the Plasma Carbine, they're generally positive overclocks, and the mods are pretty good as well. Like overall, with the good versatility, good thought behind them. M1000 though, just don't fuck around with stats because they don't mean anything. Overclocks. Click the overclocks, eh? That's what we're doing. Hoverclock. No. There's no good reason to use overclock. If you want
only because it needs
special powder.
Only because it needs an upgrade. Like the gun needs an upgrade, and that's why hoverclock feels bad because it doesn't upgrade it. Minimal clips.
Yeah.
There's no real point to it. Actually,
it's like the other cleans. For the other guns, like it's no better or worse than them in that it's technically a positive.
Active stability system, actually not bad.
Not unpleasant.
Actually, no, pleasant. Not necessarily like a big bonus, but it's pleasant. Actually, I'll say that for it. I actually like this one. This is the best.
Doesn't make it any better numerically.
No,
but it makes it better. It makes it less awkward to use normally, right? Focusing is not a big deal with this, which you will need to focus often if you don't actually have any real positives.
This is actually, in my opinion, this is for people with good aim. This is something else entirely.
I think if they moved some of that ammo pool, hipsters one, if they moved some of hipsters ammo into the base gun, AO stability would be one of the top ones. Would be definitely up there. But as of now, it's like it's okay. It's nice, but it's not that strong. And then obviously next hipster is like, you know, fucking
Required.
hipster. It's,
Look at that. First of all, why is it 913? But that's like
it's a bit weird.
almost double ammo.
Yeah. With
Stupid.
more rates to fire, just for the funny
Reduced
kicks of
spread
it.
per shot. Reduced
Barely
bloom.
matters.
Half
matters.
recoil. And Tyler,
That's a-
you don't
It's a
understand.
positive, right?
You don't understand. That's like 5 positives.
Oh.
And that's not
And
even
then-
that's not even inaccurate to like what you see. Hold on, I want to see how I can just because this more accurately shows you what you see in game. Hipster. Okay, it's got 3 positives listed, and only 1 negative
Yeah.
listed on a balanced overclock.
Yeah, and the negative is damage, which
Yeah, it's not a big
Isn't-
deal when you've got almost double
Yeah.
ammo.
and it's also because like it does a lot of damage still, right? Like, or like you can make it still do quite a bit of damage behind the shots, and it's just fucking And then obviously, let's find focus shots.
Awful, disgusting. Get out of my
Actively
face.
terrible. And next one is like. It's the same as the other thing. If there was more ammo in the base gun, this would be a better
Exactly.
pick, but it's just
Super
not.
cooling chamber is probably as good as it should be, but the
Yeah,
gun
it's in
isn't
really
as good
good
as it should.
state.
The gun itself isn't good enough for super cooling chamber.
Yeah. It's the only time it's worth it for that amount of damage with as big as an ammo deficit is against dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts is the only thing worth picking this for, and it's not even the best idea. It's just the only way that this is a usable idea. Because otherwise, you're using too much. You're doing too much damage. It's not worth it. It's like you're overkilling everything you hit.
I feel like such an idiot when I use this to kill grunt.
Yeah, like it's just not possible.
I don't
And his
think that should be the
secondaries,
case.
barely allow for your primary to be used like that. Like your zoo Colts will piss through their ammo quickly if you have to use them for most grunts. If you use the crossbow very well, you'll just about manage, maybe. And like the boomstick, no fucking shot. But like, point is, yeah, it's just not as good as the other two at the bare
You can do it
minimum.
with the crossbow, but you're going to be sweating.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, and it's like, that's the thing though, is that like, because what you do need to give M1000 credit for is why people like it. It is that it does high instant damage to any target at any range, which is what like the Hazard 2 times difficulty players love it for, and that's why they spout it from the rooftops and say how amazing it is.
What do they do? Do they use this, or do they use hipster?
Do you remember? Almost definitely hipster. But
And
like,
then
do you remember?
fireballs.
You know, we watched the video of like the Scout playstyle like guide, and like 80% of high skip players, like, you know, top players, use the M1000, and like the rest use the Drac, I think.
I'm gonna say something like,
GK,
kind of
something like that.
nice, just in general. Doing this has actually made me enjoy experimenting with the guns more, which is a reason to play the game that I sort of forgot about once we had like new incentives introduced. It's just like, oh, now I focus on like the performance pass, and it's like once that's done, it's like, oh, what do I do now? But it's like now I've got to like, because I'm starting to find more builds with like the plasma carbine and the sludge pump that I didn't know I liked, and that combines with like more secondary builds that I didn't know I liked, and it's bringing out a lot. This game just has so much depth when it comes to the weapons. It's crazy.
Yeah, except the M1000.
It's a very undepthful weapon.
That's I think that I think
like
is our
the
tier list.
GK2 has like every mod and every overclock is usable, like pretty much on face value. This guy's got more depth than the fucking ocean, and then the M1000 is like, I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know how we would word it, but like most people, when they do tier lists, they have to kind of base it on different things, right? Like you could say that like a tier list, you could like peak builds, like the strongest builds each gun, because hipster, like if hipster M1000 is like A to S, but we're not putting it there because we're not basing it on its best build.
Exactly,
right?
the Hurricane would be an S tier if that was the case.
Yeah, we are basing it on, of everything that it has, how often is it at least good, right? Like everything in A is at least good a vast majority of the time. It's difficult to put anything in A, make anything in A like objectively horrific. Obviously, the plasma carbine, it's a bit easier because it's a higher skill weapon.
You can make both the plasma carbine and you can make that and the minigun bad if you wanted to. The minigun is probably more good on average. I mean, I think bullet hell is a bad overclock, but it probably stops there actually.
Exactly.
But the plasma carbine is too high a frequency of fantastic builds, though.
Yeah, it's like overclocks and mods
distinct builds, fantastic distinct builds.
Yeah, and I think the only real exception to that, and it's using this logic, it's kind of shakes it a little bit. The Thunderhead being an S, technically its AOE build is not the best with Carpet Bomber. If Carpet Bomber got bust, it was already an easy S, but it would be an exemplary.
But the thing is though, when it comes to like big crowds, you know, big like groups of enemies that are grouped together, they're always the types of enemies that can be affected by neurotoxin.
Yeah,
and
it's still the Thunderhead.
Is like dominating that.
The Thunderhead it's a master at what it's supposed to do. Same with the Sludge Pump. Everything in A is very good with most of all of its builds, which is a given basically for S. B could be better. Strong, usable, multiple. If just some perfectly fine builds. Like as much as we shit on it, the flamethrower little.
But Tyler, this is the problem though. This is actually the problem with the flamethrower. I think it doesn't actually have any like S tier builds for me.
No,
on its own. But
yeah, not any ones that make you like, because like people will throw sticky flames, right? People are like sticky flames. Sticky flames is amazing for the flamethrower. Like,
you should kill yourself now.
Sludge pump. Sure, sticky flames is cool, really good for the flamethrower. It is. It's the best thing you can do with a flamethrower. But you want to know a better thing you can do for Driller? Switch off the flamethrower and use the sludge pump.
Or even the other two.
Or if you want to slow things down and deal a status effect time over, use the sludge pump. If you want your status effect to be of value to everyone else, use the cryo cannon.
I've got a better way to put it. If you want to help your friends, use the sludge pump. If you want to help your friends, use the cryo cannon. If you want to hurt your friends, use a flamethrower.
Yeah.
Well, like freezing your friends isn't nice, but
it's kind of funny. But it shouldn't happen.
Get set on fire by sticky flames.
No, I don't think so. Actually, I think they made sure that wasn't a thing. But you also can't get slowed down and corroded by your sludge pump.
Exactly.
Friends,
you create sludge terrain that you can still move through it at
And I would argue the sludge pump is actually less visual clutter than sticky flames.
Oh, for sure.
Because sticky flames actually kind of protrudes quite far out. But the sludge pump actually kind of just sticks to the ground and he's quite mellow about it. But it is that the flamethrower. Well,
the sludge pump is a disciplined yet messy killer somehow.
The sticky flame build is good but unnecessary. It does have the clip-sized and the range ones, which are actually more usable with a fire, but just setting things on fire build, which is why it's in B and not C. You can use it, but it's not the way it likes to be used. And the best way to use it is unnecessary with the sludge pump being in the game. That's why it's in B. Hurricane has a lot of good builds, but also a lot of bad ones. So it's mediumed out to B. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say, right? It has pretty high peaks, but also very low valleys.
Hurricane is the weakest out of the three on average, but it has arguably its greatest peaks, but only because the peaks are so much better than the base. Whereas the Thunderhead, I'd argue that the other two, the Thunderhead, it's really only neurotoxin. Everything else is sort of just, it's not a crazy leap beyond what they start as. But the Hurricane's best builds stray very far in terms of strength and function from how Hurricane is by default. Yeah.
And I think the cryo cannon, its best build, which is too cooler, really, right? I mean, that's the one, right? But you can use slightly alternating, but as long as you're freezing things, it's fucking amazing. But that is it. That it's that shallow, and that's why it's in B.
Yeah, cryo cannon is
you can't really do anything other than that. But
the cryo cannon's
just freezing things is just so strong.
I don't think the cryo cannon's problems are too dissimilar to the M1000s actually, but it's just the difference of you are much more of an asset. You're so much more of an asset to your team with the cryo cannon than the M1000. I think.
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, as long as you're building it towards freezing, because if you're building it towards ice storm or ice spear, then you are less of an asset to your team and you are doing less. It's just worse, because you're not freezing things as well, for yourself or your team. But
yeah,
yeah,
those
so
two. Yeah.
it's the fact that like I honestly I'm kind of up for putting the flamethrower down one. Because I don't know.
It doesn't necessarily follow the reasoning that we just load out B tier, does it?
Exactly.
But only because we dismiss sticky fuel.
Yeah, sticky flames, because we should, because
Yeah.
it is literally just a worse sludge pump, and I think that is. Like, it is a bad thing for the flamethrower to have for the game, and just for the fun of it. Like, the flamethrower shouldn't be delegated to sticky flames. It's better than that. it needs to grow from it.
Well, I think it is. I think it is literally better than that, though, in terms of how it works. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I don't find it to be weak at all, really. Yet these three often end up feeling weak.
Yeah, I guess.
I think the flamethrower, like on average, feels pretty strong. I don't know.
No, yeah,
not
it
too
is. The
confident
thing
in what you're saying.
when you don't build it for what it wants to do, it's pretty nice. But its main builds and the things that everyone hails it for are terrible.
I know
They're
Sticky
not
Flames is
actually
pushed.
terrible.
I think it's pushed a little bit, but I think it's more pushed by the community than the game.
No, it is. Yeah, no. Well, no. No. I
You need to
mean,
look at the number of.
look at its mods. Like,
Hold on. That's Sticky Flames duration.
Sticky Flames.
Okay.
Sticky Flames is one path.
But
Damage and fire and like fear is the next one. Damage and like the output, like the fire rate, with face melter. That's really the other one. And like,
it depends on your like how you
is.
view these things. Because to me, I guess it's probably not as intentional because this is dedicated Sticky Flame stuff. But to me, this is for heat, right?
Exactly,
You just
it
increase
is.
your heat, and then you just get more and more
heat and ammo. Heat and ammo,
they go
yeah.
together.
That's the best build, in my opinion. But it's not. It's not the best build, but it's the best flamethrower build.
You got free ammo increases.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
This is like our ideal. It's like the best flamethrower build.
That if you like flamethrowers, like in games, if you like flamethrowers, this is your build. Or hold on, go to the overclock. Either that, click on the overclock. The mag one.
These
Combat
three.
feed valves or there.
These are my favourite flamethrower overclocks. These three are the ones that people. Well, actually, no one really cares about that because you don't need it.
No,
but
there's no reason to. But those two are like the faces of the flamethrower. When they are a terrible face. They are ugly. They are useless. They are stupid. Meanwhile, the cool guys behind the scenes are actually making the flamethrower a fun flamethrower. And that's why
these guys are underrated. I think.
Very. They're not though. They are, but they're not.
They're ignored unfairly.
The build isn't that strong. Like, it's not. I mean, I think Face Melter is overhyped. It's not good. But I think Sticky Flames is very strong. It's just stupid. If you want to use Sticky Flames, use the Sludge Pump. If you want to use the Flamethrower, use this build. And that's really my argument for why the flamethrower needs to be touched, and not in a bad way. I mean that it needs to be interacted with like the GK, like the sludge pump. It needs to be overhauled. Where Sticky Flames is a subsection, like it does the floor thing, but it's not a part of the gun like it is now. Something like that needs to be stepped in place because it's just bad. It's just, but not like actually it's good, but like it's bad that is good. Is my thought on the flamethrower. Point is I think you are hesitant to make any change that I think we need to make, so I think we should wrap it up here because the actual changes we should make you don't want to do. Because really, maybe I'm thinking bring the Warthog down, bring those three down to D, like see everything C down to D, and then bring like the flamethrower down to something else. Oh my god, you made another one.
Yeah. Yeah, I have, because this means that and you'll see why. Hold on. How do I get it right? That's not right. What the fuck? This is stupid, man. Oh, I actually have to move it in OBS. Anyway, yeah, the reason I've done this is... Also, why can't I click between the two? Dumb. Wait, I can. Just... Why are you slow? Not meant to be slow.
I think it's the ads on the sides. Stop flicking between them.
Anyway, yeah, so basically, this is... Is this what you want? Is this what you...
Pretty much, yeah. No, actually, no. Loki bottom, classic up.
Oh. Oh.
It is D, I think, is objectively weak and is needing a legitimate buffs. C is things need to be changed. Like, they're strong, but they're not healthy strong. It's not healthy for the game and those weapons and players that those are the strong builds about them. B is overall, well, no, I guess not overall solid. Work to be done, but overall good. I think
some
the Warhawk
areas
could go in A, but like it's a bit.
The Warhawk lacks. The thing is, the Warhawk to me lacks anything exceptional.
Pizzazz.
Yeah, I feel like because even the GK2, which is arguably fairly flat, I still think it has, but it still has more intrigue and has more exceptional builds that aren't even like, they're not even like crazy, you know. I think like, yeah, yeah. The Warhawk doesn't really have
and
anything exceptional.
Is more than like strong enough. Everything about it, basically everything about it, is strong and usable. And then S is just flawless. Or as far as it matters, flawless.
You know what? I think I'm actually on board with this.
I think this definition, if we were to want to post, like once we're done with this, if we want to use those definitions, I think we would want to do that, right? Put S in like a line and then what it actually means. Because, yeah, I don't know. Because that's the thing, is I noticed that the way we do this tier list isn't about peak strength, it's about overall strength, which is pretty difficult to represent unless told. So, yeah. I don't know. I think we have 2 alternate endings. We'll see how it goes like later. Like maybe we'll keep that one for like now, like the face of it. But then we'll like...
That's what I'll do. I'll grab this, right?
No, not that one. Grab the other one.
What?
Well, wait. Oh no, you're not going to keep the thing. This is not the thumbnail one.
No. I don't do that. List. Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean,
yeah.
As in, which one would you want it to stay as?
Yeah, this one will continue forward into the secondaries with, but the other one, I think, if we specify what it means, like with each, like in the other one, if C was then stated like has a strong build but is bad and unhealthy for the game, something like that, and like specify, I think the other one would be better. But for now, this is fine.
This is fine.
Just with only letters telling the story, I'm fine with this. And yeah, we managed to probably finish that up in about as much time as it took to do the whole actual fucking tier list. But yeah, thank you all for watching.
No,
if you just skipped to this point, then you dodged a bullet there. Although we have now made a second tier list, which I think once we finish this series, I think that one's going to go on the Reddit. The other one with some things on it. But yeah, or this one. We'll do both. We'll post both on like both of our separate accounts, and we'll see what gets more dislikes or likes, or whatever. It's not really that. I guess up votes and down votes because Reddit. But yeah, we'll see if we post like basically the same thing twice. See what happens. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. I need a drink. My mouth is dry. from all this jibber jabbering that I've been
All
doing.
this useless chatter, which I wouldn't say that. This is the stuff I like talking about like the most.
That's why I'm actually like, yeah,
In
I'm fucking
general.
hyped. I really like doing tier lists because they really are like they make us talk about the things that matter the most in this game. To be honest with you, like last podcast, as good as it was, no one gives a shit about the missing pages of the fake.
Well, no,
Yeah,
clearly we didn't.
yeah, but like this is the guns. This is the juicy stuff. And tier lists are actually, I don't think tier lists are as big as they used to be, but they're still a pretty easy way of formatting a video. But yeah,
We somehow managed to break that format. Even.
yeah,
We're fucking pioneers. That's why.
yeah,
Geniuses.
pioneers in long ass videos. But yeah, next time we will be going over the Gen 1 secondaries.
Well,
I'm pretty
next
sure,
Saturday probably won't be that.
No, will that be the?
Yeah, we'll have a little break. I think, yeah,
Right.
I hope so, because that means we don't have. Yeah, I hope so, because we'll get a break, and also means we have more time to use them.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll see you. Well, like,
You know,
soon-ish, I guess. I don't know. The pad's a bit squiff at the
I'll
moment.
probably see you on Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rock and stone.
C'est la vie. What's rock and stone in French? Rock is stone.
Look at the stone. Look at the snail.
El stone el loco. Spanish.
Is that all right?
Italian. Lucchini el stonini.
You better have a booby. Let's not go through all
Oh
the
my
languages.
God.
We have a,
Oh my god. Rock and stone.
what was that?
I don't know. Japanese.
That was just. Oh right. Okay.
Rock
goodbye.
and stone. Goodbye.